Hi, everyone. I'm Paige O'Neill, the CMO at Sitecore, and I'm back for another round of video chats. And I'm very pleased to have joining me today Gerry Brown, who is the Customer Experience Research Director for Europe with IDC. And as I'm sure everyone knows, IDC is an international analyst firm. We do a lot of research in tech across many different spaces. So, Gerry, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Paige.
And so, Gerry, I've been spending a lot of time the last couple of weeks talking with many people from the community on various business topics related to how we're responding to this pandemic. And I know that, sitting in your role, you've had the opportunity over the last couple of months to work with a lot of enterprises to take a look at how they're really having to change their spending priorities, their IT spending priorities as a result of the pandemic. And so what are you seeing from these conversations you're having and the research that you've been doing?
That's a great question, Paige. So thank you for inviting me today, by the way. So there's a lot of points of view about COVID and the effect on technology. What we wanted to do in IDC, we're a data-driven company. So we've done a whole series of research in Europe and across the world, by the way, around the impact of COVID on spending in medium and large enterprises. And what I'd like to do today is to share some of the results from the European exercise. We've run an omnibus survey. Every 2 weeks, we do a series of interviews, around about 700 interviews with enterprise leaders, in CIOs, line of business leaders, asking them about how COVID is affecting their thinking about investment in IT. But we have some extraordinary results, actually, which I'd like to share with you today. So, when we ask enterprises about the effect on them, around about 20% say we're relatively unaffected. Around about 80% say we are affected. So also we ask questions about revenue. 81% of the enterprises that we talked to said that they will see a decrease in revenue in 2020. And over 60% of those say it's going to be in excess of 10%. So the effect in Europe is quite dramatic, and we're living through it now. And obviously, like in the US, there's a pressure to open up, to get back to business. So what impact does this situation have on IT and IT spending in large enterprises in Europe? Well, the first thing is that IT is less affected than other areas. So only 30% of our samples say that they expect their IT spend to decline in 2020. Most people are retaining their budgets. But what's actually happening is that it's a reprioritization that's going on. There's a change of focus around, what people want to spend their money on. So, we're seeing some of the obvious areas, such as video conferencing, mobile devices, teleconferencing, all the things that you'd expect in terms of moving your workforce from a centralized premise location to working from home. What we do see when we're asking questions around your plans going forward are that 90% see significant plans to their strategic deployment of IT. So in the short and the medium and longer term, there's a change in the way that people see technology and their purchases of technology in Europe resulting from the COVID crisis. So when we move on to the kind of the CX areas, many of the areas I was talking about, and I would say that content is included in that, which is obviously of interest to Sitecore. Many of those areas that are in growth, well, not so much in growth, we see declines, but minimal declines in many areas of CX-related business. We asked a number of questions, and most recently we asked that in terms of the short term, how are you responding to the short-term crisis around COVID? And so the answer to that question was engendering trust with our customers became the number one choice. So clearly people in Europe, enterprises are seeing building that sort of customer retention, making sure that customers stay with them through the crisis is a really important point in terms of accelerating out of the crisis. And so the second question we asked was all about the top initiatives for 2020 and 2021. So if you're thinking about the medium term, what does that mean in terms of your spend changes? CX programs came right at the top of their choices, which was quite amazing. Even in front of collaboration and connectivity, CX was right top and center. But what they're saying to us is, okay, in the medium term, 2021, CX programs come to the top. And beyond that, when we look at digital initiatives, post-COVID, when COVID is all over, CX engagement comes absolute number one, and CX products and service, so excellence in products and services to deliver customer experience comes number two. So, much to our astonishment, actually, CX in the short, medium, and long term has risen dramatically to the top of the agenda. Wow. of line of business and IT leaders.
Wow. And so in your mind, does that tell you that, what does that tell you about what companies have learned about their digital experience during this time?
That's a great question. Interestingly, people, when we ask about digital transformation budgets and digital transformation in general, people say, we're not changing that. We are not going to trash our digital transformation initiatives. We may scale them down, we may reprioritize where we spend our money, but digital transformation is firmly on the agenda. And there is an understanding, I think, of this direct connection between digital transformation and CX as the business outcome has become stronger as a result of this. So CX, I think, is driving a lot more technology investments now. And I would say in the past, it's been the other way around. There's been a rush to digital transformation, and CX has been an incidental or accidental business outcome. And I think now what has happened with COVID is people have suddenly got laser beam focused about the need to retain customers, and CX is bubbling to the top of their agendas.
Interesting. And obviously all of these companies, companies all over the world have suddenly had to face the fact that really their only interaction right now can be digital. And so that's, I think, probably had something to do with them thinking about reprioritizing as well, and thinking about if we're going to have a significant portion of our interaction being digital in the future, how are we going to make that palatable for the customer, make that enjoyable for the customer? Are you hearing companies talking about that as well?
Yes, indeed. So, there is an understanding, and I think many of your other guests have mentioned this, that the sort of working at home and more remote working and decentralization of organizations is going to be here to stay. In some form. I think it's going to be a somewhat hybrid, but certainly we're going to be spending a larger amount of our time at home. And how do you facilitate that? So within IDC, for example, we've been running how to run a video conference successfully. So what we're finding is that actually people are lacking in skills when it's behind the camera, because we're not used to Zoom. We're not used to all this kind of interaction and handling what's behind us and knowing how to interact is proving to be quite a big challenge.
We won't mention the difficulty that I had trying to get this to record as we started, as an example of that, right?
We'll try to forget all about that. But
thanks so much for joining us for part one of the conversation. And I'll be posting part two with Gerry Brown from IDC in just a few days. Thanks.